Hi everybody, welcome to our live crochet event. I'm Brenda KB Anderson, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to work up the Firedrake lace shawl. I'll show you what it looks like. Here we go. It's a shawl that has lots of open work, but the cool thing about this stitch pattern is that it is solid enough that you can work it in a self-striping yarn and you can still see the stitching details. So I'm super excited to show you guys how to do this. We'll be walking through all the steps, things you need to know in order to make this shawl. So I would say this shawl is probably more of an intermediate project, but if you're comfortable holding a hook and you've worked up some of the basic crochet stitches like single crochet, double crochet, treble, and chains, then if you're adventurous, I would say you just go for it. All right, so the materials you will be needing, you'll need a large yarn cake, close to 800 yards of yarn. This is a DK weight or like a lighter worsted weight yarn. And you will need a crochet hook that gets you the appropriate gauge, which is listed in your pattern. I used a G hook, which is a 4mm hook. And of course, you're gonna need your pattern. So you can find your pattern in the chat box or in the description and just click on that and that'll bring you to the download, which is a free download for anyone. All right, so this is a live event, so if you have any questions, any comments, if you want to say hi, tell me what you're working on, tell me where you're working from, or another thing that I really love is when people jump in and say what kind of projects they're interested in making, because I want to make things that you guys want to make. So you can leave that in the chat box as well. And I will be trying to get to all of your questions as I'm demonstrating all the techniques you need to learn. So first we have, it looks like Jen Lucas made a nice compliment about my shawl here. She can't wait to make one. I can't wait to see it, Jen. Thank you so much for the compliment. We'll get started on this shawl. It was worked from the center out. And actually, I want to show you in the pattern, I made a stitch diagram here. It's towards the end of your pattern because I am a visual learner and it really helps me to teach when I have a visual representation of what I'm making in front of me. So this is partly just for me, but also I know there's lots of visual learners, so I like to make charts for other people too who like to think about the stitches and how they relate to each other and see it in a picture form. So if you've never worked from a chart before, this is a good time to learn. It looks very complicated if you've never looked at this before. There's all these symbols and things, but when you break it down, there is a little legend at the bottom. This tells you what all the symbols mean. So you can look at this and see these little ovals and know there's 4 of them in a row. They are chains, that's what it says down here. So you know you do 4 chains. And the thing I really love about charts is it shows you the position of the stitches, what stitch is worked into another stitch. Like for example, all of these are treble crochets and they're all pointing to this chain right here at the beginning. So you know that they are all worked into that chain. And all the directions are written out in the pattern, you know, with the words you can read. And, you know, that may help you to read the words at the same time looking at this chart. So, you know, if you don't like charts, that's okay. It's all written out for you. All the information you need is in the words as well. You don't actually need this chart, but this just helps me to orient myself. All right, so let's start by making 4 chains. There's 4 chains right at the beginning, and then we're going to work 8 treble crochets into the first chain that we made. So we'll start by making a slip knot. So we just draw out a little E, a little cursive E, flip that over onto the strand of yarn that's attached to the ball, and then put your hook underneath that strand and pull on the 2 strands leading up to it, and that will tighten up to your hook. Then we're going to chain 4 stitches. So this does not count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and this is going to count as the first stitch of your row. It's going to count as a treble stitch basically. So we have like a treble here and then this extra chain that we're going to work everything into. So in order to do a treble stitch, we'll yarn over twice. 1, 2. And then we're going to insert our hook into that first chain. And you can do it from the front, you can do it from the back. It really doesn't matter where exactly you put your hook in this first chain. So you insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, then you're going to yarn over, pull through just 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So you repeat that section 3 times. Yarn over twice, insert your hook into the same chain space, yarn over, pull up a loop, then we go yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. All right, so now we have 3 stitches done, including our beginning chain, 1, 2, 3. So we'll do that a few more times, a little quickly this time. 1, 2, 3, yarn over twice, insert, pull up a loop, 1, 2, 3. Yarn over twice, insert, pull up a loop, 1, 2, 3. Yarn over twice, insert, pull up a loop, 1, 2, 3. All right, let's take a second to count our stitches. Including that first chain, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to do it 2 more times. There's stitch number 8, and here's stitch number 9. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So we've made it to this treble, and then if you take a look at this chart, you'll notice it goes black, blue, black, blue, black, blue. That's to help distinguish between the rows. It can be really confusing to see what stitch is worked in which row, especially when, for something like this, when, for example, in row 5, you have all these stitches worked here, and then a single crochet there, and then up here. So they're not placed, you know, in an even row across. They're going up and down and over and up and down and over. So I like to alternate between colors just to make it a little bit more clear. So the blue section of stitches are worked on the wrong side. But actually this shawl, the right side and the wrong side, it doesn't really matter. It's pretty much reversible. I mean, it does look a little different on the 2 sides, but both look great. So wrong side, take that with a grain of salt, just the other side. All right, so we have our 9 stitches here. So then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chains at the beginning of row 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That counts as a turning chain, and it also counts as a chain 2. So here's your turning chain that counts as a treble, and then 2 chains that count as a chain 2. So sometimes you'll see, oftentimes actually, you'll see 4 chains counting as a treble. And I feel like you can use however many chains you need to for your turning chain to get it to the length you want. Don't let anyone tell you it always has to be 4 or it always has to be a certain number for your stitch. It should be, you know, you should do the same amount on every row, but whatever set of chains works for you to get the length that you want. So for this, when I made the shawl, I started out with 4 chains here instead of 3 chains, but then it got too long and stretched out. So I went back and I changed it to just 3 chains, but it's counting as a treble. So it's a mirror image on both sides. All right, so we've got our 5 chains, then we have 2 single crochets worked into this treble crochet. So we're skipping this treble crochet because this chain is considered working into that treble. Then the next one we're going to work 2 single crochets into that stitch. So we insert our hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And we're going to repeat that in the same stitch. Insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. That's 2 single crochets in that stitch. Now we're going to do exactly the same thing in the next stitch. Insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So we have 4 single crochets right there. That's these 4. Then we do 2 chains, and then we will do the series of a double crochet, 4 chains, double crochet into the next stitch. All right, so we'll do our 2 chains, 1, 2, and then we are going to work, and then I should mention we're skipping 1 treble crochet, and then we're going to work a double crochet, chain 4 double crochet into the following stitch. All right, so we're skipping this stitch, and then we're going to work all that business into this next stitch. So yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That is a double crochet. We're going to do 4 chains, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to do another double crochet here in the same spot. So we yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That's the second double crochet. Then we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, skip the next treble, which is right here. And then we're going to work 2 single crochets into the next stitch. This is just like we did at the beginning of the row. And 2 single crochets into the following stitch. 1, 2. Then we chain 2. And then we're going to finish this row with a treble in the top of that turning chain. So we'll yarn over twice for the treble. And then we can go to the top of that turning chain, which is right here. Insert your hook. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, so that's your treble right there. Then we're going to start with row number 3. Oh, looks like we have some love for the charts. Thank you so much, you guys. I knew I wasn't the only one who likes charts. All right. Looks like I missed a few comments here. Thanks for the pattern from New Jersey. Elaine, hi Elaine. And you're working on 2 Afghans. Wow, those are big undertakings. All right. And Dara loves charts too. She's making summer scarves as gifts. All right, and is this being recorded for future viewing? Yes, you will be able to watch this later at any time. All right, and hello to Alma, viewing from Houston, Texas. And Tammy says good morning from Bakersfield, California. Hi, Tammy. All right, so here we are on row number 3. We're going to chain 3. That's going to count as our first treble. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to turn our work to work in the opposite direction across our row. And then you'll see here there's a double crochet, chain 1, and then 2 double crochets. And all of that business is worked into this chain 2 section here. So here's the chain 2. I'll just pull this apart so you can see a little bit. Right where my finger's going through, that's the chain 2 section. So we're going to do a double crochet. So that's a yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, a chain 1, and then 2 more double crochets. 1, 2, to that same spot. And then the next stitch is worked into the first single crochet from that we see here from the last row. So we'll do a double crochet there. 1, 2. And then you can see here we have these 3 double crochets, then we have a chain 2 space, and that chain 2 space is always going to be over these 2 middle single crochets of the 4 single crochet section, just to help orient you a little. So we'll do 2 chains, skip those 2 middle single crochets, and then we're going to do a double crochet in the last of those single crochets. 1, 2, there's a double crochet. And then we are going to work 2 double crochets and then a chain over that double crochet. Okay, so two double crochets here, we're skipping that double crochet and we're just doing a chain above it. So here's the first of our 2 double crochets, 1, 2, and then a chain 1. And now we're going to do this section in the middle, which is 3 double crochets, 4 chains, 3 double crochets, all into this corner, the corner tip of the shawl. So 1, 2, 3, and then 4 chains, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 3 more double crochets, 1, 2, 3. All right, so we made it here. We're going to do a chain and skip over that double crochet, and then in the following space we'll work 2 double crochets, 1, 2, which leads us up to that 4 single crochets in a row section. So the first single crochet gets a double crochet in it. Here we go, double crochet. Then we do chain 2 just like we did on the first side. And then we do another double crochet in the last of those 4 single crochets. 1, 2. So here we are right here. We are going to, whoops, right there. We're going to do 2 chains, Oh, we already did those 2 chains, so right there. And then the first double crochet, we're going to do 2 double crochets into that same chain space, 2 double crochets, chain 1, and then another double crochet all into the end there. So we'll work 2 double crochets, 1, 2, a chain 1 right here, and then another double crochet. And then we end this row by putting a treble crochet into this turning chain. So remember, the first 3 counted as the turning chain, and then the next 2 counted as a chain 2. So we count up 1, 2, 3 stitches from down here. So 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to put a treble into that 3rd stitch right there. 1, 2, 3. There's our treble. All right, so now we're on row 4. And hello, Bev. Good morning to you too, from Sioux Center, Iowa. All right, so number 4, we begin this with a lot of chains. So the first 3 chains are going to count as your first treble, which is a turning chain right there. Then this little U-shaped set of chains, there's 7 chains in there. And those kind of form a place for us to put these arches. So think of this as being your turning chain or a treble stitch, and think of these 7 as being a little loop to put all of those extra stitches in. But really, when you look at it all together, you're going to do 10 chains. So 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, and then we're going to do 3 double crochets into that first double crochet that we get to from row 3. So we're going to turn our work, yarn over, and here is between my thumbs, that is your double crochet that you're working into. So we're going to do 3 into that stitch. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to work 3 double crochets into the double crochets from the row below. So chain 1, here's our 3 double crochets. We're going to give each of those 1 double crochet. 1, 2, 3. And then we will chain 7, and then do 3 more double crochets. So see how we're doing 3 double crochets, chaining 7, 3 double crochets. Then we chain 1 to get to the next section, the next repeat. So we've already worked through here. We're going to be doing our chain 7 right there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 3 more double crochets. 1, 2, 3. And then we do 1 chain, skip over that chain 1, and we do 3 more double crochets in the next set of 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we're right here, so we're going to do 7 chains, and then we're going to do all this stuff in the middle for 4 chain space. So we'll do our 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. See, there's our center right there. And we're going to do 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets. Now we're chaining 2, 1, 2. And then we're going to do 2 more double crochets, 1, 2. And then we're going to do 7 more chains, and then we'll work 3 double crochets into those 3 double crochets that come up next. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And here's those 3 double crochets. So we're going to do 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, 3 double crochets. And then we chain 1. And we do 3 double crochets here. 1, 2, 3. So you'll notice there's a pattern here there's 2 blocks of 3 double crochets that are just separated by 1 chain. There's a set, there's a set, there's a set. This is going to be repeating throughout the shawl. I'm just showing you so that you can help recognize where the stitches end up going. I feel like when you're making something like this, it can be kind of a daunting thing unless you kind of understand the relationship between where you're putting your stitches. Then it makes it a lot easier and you can memorize this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now we're going to do 3 double crochets here. 1, 2, 3, and then a chain 1, and there should be another set of 3 double crochets, but we only have that 1 double crochet to work into, so we're going to put all 3 into that 1 double crochet. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then we're going to do the very last chain 7 right there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then a treble stitch that is going to be in the top of that chain 3. Okay, so we yarn over twice. Here's the chain 3. We're going to put this in the 3rd of the 3 stitches. And when you're working into these chains, it may, whoops, I think I lost some of my yarn overs. Sometimes when you're working into these chains, if they're kind of twisted and you're not really sure if you're supposed to put your hook in this way or under these 2 loops or those 2, it honestly doesn't really matter. To me, you just look at the stitch and put your hook in the proper stitch. That would be the 3rd one from the bottom, and see if it looks okay. Don't worry about it. If it isn't, under the perfect 2, like when you're taught how to make your crochet chain, usually people are taught to stick their hook underneath those 2 V's on the top. Here, let me show you, like these 2 V's. So if you're looking for your chain, you could be spending a lot of time looking for the perfect place to put your hook, but on this, it really doesn't matter. It just makes a little cord there, that your stitches, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. So put it wherever in that 3rd stitch that it makes sense to you. All right, so we have our last loop and our last treble. So we're going to start on row 5. And you may have noticed that when we're working from this chart, we work all the black rows starting on the right side and working this way, and all the blue rows are working this way. Okay, but if you are a left-handed person, you're going to be reading the chart in the same direction, but you're actually going to be working in the opposite direction. All right, so, and if you are a left-handed person, I would say you could just watch your video through a mirror or flip the image, then it'll look exactly like what it'll look like for you as a left-handed crocheter. Okay, so here we've made it to row number 4. We're going to be working on row number 5. This is my favorite row when you get to do all these arches. It's a lot less trying to orient yourself. It's very easy because you just made all these loops to stitch into. So we're going to do a chain 3, 1, 2, 3. That counts as the first stitch of the row. And then we're going to be doing 10 double crochets into the first loop. There's 10 here and there's 10 here, but all the rest of these will get 12. So the first and last get 10 because they're it's like an arch that got the end of it a little bit chopped off. All right, so we'll do 10 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So we've worked our 10, and then we do a single crochet into that chain 1 space that's right between those 2 sets of double crochets. So right there's a little window. So we're going to do a single crochet right into that space, and that kind of pulls the arch over so that the side of your stitch is lining up with the tops of those. It's kind of fun. So Eric Mann has a question, where can I find some information on single crochet? If you take a look at the Creative Crochet Corner website, there are videos that you can watch that will teach you how to make the single crochet stitch. All right, and then after you've done the first archway and done your single crochet, basically you're just going to make arches, single crochets, arches, single crochets all the way across the row. So we're going to be doing 12, like I said, 12 double crochets in all the rest of those little chain spaces. Not little, they're kind of large, chain 7 spaces. All right, so we yarn over once for double crochet, and we're doing 12 into this giant loop, all right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There we go. Nice archway there, and then we're going to do a single crochet, like I said before, in between those 2 sections of the double crochets. So single crochet right there, and we're going to repeat this. And you may be looking at this piece and thinking it's kind of a strange shape and it doesn't quite look like the wide triangle that I have in this, in the picture or in this chart, but that's because we haven't really worked enough rows yet to give this the proper shape. And also, another thing that I really want to stress is blocking your shawl. That'll make a really, really huge difference in how your shawl looks. It just gives it so much more drape. And we'll talk about that a little bit more at the end. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, and that brings us to this center section, and we just put a single crochet into that chain 2 space right there. And then we're just going to continue making 12 here, single crochet, 12 here, single crochet, and then when we get to this last loop, we're going to only be doing 10, just like at the beginning. Here, I'll show you. This is, look, our swatch changed color magically. Okay, so this is what we had just worked through. We've done all of these. I just added a couple more here. Add my hook. And I'll show you just that last loop that we get to here. Okay, so we've already done our last single crochet right there, and then we're going to do 10 this time, 10 double crochets into that last loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So we've done our 10, and then we are going to be working a treble crochet in the top of this chain 3. So you're going to count up from the bottom. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to slide this over just a little, and then we're going to do a treble into that 3rd stitch. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. There's our treble. So like I was saying before, this it's going to widen out. It's going to change shape a little as we do some more rows. It's not going to be such a big dip right here. So you have to be patient. All right, so we are on we just finished row number 5. We're going to be working row number 6. So 1, 2, 3 stitches for a turning chain plus a chain 2, 1, 2. We're going to turn our work. And then we are skipping the first 2 double crochets, and we're going to be working a single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. So this is your treble, and we're skipping 2 double crochets, 1, 2. So now we're going to be working single crochets into the next 4 stitches. 1, and Eric, here's how you do your single crochet. You insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So now we have 2 single crochets. 1 more, and there we go. So we have a set of 4. Then we are going to chain 2, chain 2. We're skipping all the rest of these in the archway, and then we're going to put a treble into the single crochet. Okay, so we've chained 2, yarn over twice for a treble. There's that single crochet that we had made between those arches, sitting right at the bottom of the arch. So insert our hook there, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2. Okay, and then we're going to do another chain 2, and this time we're going to be, instead of just skipping 2, we're going to be skipping 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So because this has 12 double crochets in it, we're skipping the first 4, single crocheting in the next 4, and skipping the last 4, basically. So every time you work across these in this row, you're going to be working in that center 4 single crochets each time. So you'll have a chain 2, single crochet in those 4, chain 2, and then a treble that reaches all the way down to that single crochet. That's what this row is all about. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, we're skipping those. And then we're going to do 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, chain 2. And now we're skipping those last 4 double crochets, and we're going to do a treble down in that single crochet. 1, 2, 3, chain 2. Skipping 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, single crochet in the next 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we chain 2. And here we are right here. We've just chained those 2. Oops, we're coming from the blue row, so we're over on this side. So we've chained these 2. We're going to do a treble, chain 4, treble, all into that center single crochet of the point of the shawl. Okay, so there's our treble. 1, 2, 3, chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then another treble in that same stitch. 1, 2, 3, and then 2 chains. And then we're going to continue working the same pattern across, skipping 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, single crocheting into the next 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 chains, treble in that single crochet down below, chain 2, skipping 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, single crochet in the next 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, chain 2. Here's your treble down below. 1, 2, 3, chain 2, skipping 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So even on this last one where we only had 6 double crochets, we are still skipping the first 4 stitches, and that is because on the way here at the beginning we only skipped 2, but that's because this is a mirror image of what we're doing over here. So we skipped 4, worked 4 single crochets in the top, then we're skipping these 2, and then we're going to create a treble into the top of this turning chain right here. So that's right there. That treble is going into the top of the turning chain. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so then row number 7, that's where we're at. Oh, hello, Dawn from Washington. And hello, Maxine from Kentucky. Oh, Dawn has a compliment about my shawl. Thank you so much, Dawn. So nice to hear you like it. All right, so row number 7 begins with a chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to turn our work. And then we're going to work double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochets into that chain 2 space. So there's our double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochets, 1, 2. And this might look familiar to you because row 7 is extremely similar to row number 3. And we have already moved into our repeat section. So in the pattern, it'll tell you you're going to be repeating rows number 6, 7, 8, and 9 over and over. So once we get through row number 9, you'll know how to basically make the whole rest of the shawl. So we've got our 2 double crochets right here, our double crochet in the first of these 4 single crochet stitches, 1 double crochet right there, and then we're going to do a chain 2 and skip 2 single crochets. Double crochet in the last of that set of 4 single crochets. Okay, so we've got double, chain, chain, skipping those, double crochet in the last. And then we're going to do 2 more double crochets into this chain 2 space. 1, 2, chain 1. We always do a chain 1 when we're going over the treble stitches, those tall treble stitches. We'll just do a chain 1 and skip over it. And then do 2 double crochets in the next space. And then here's another set of 4 single crochets. So we're going to do a double in the first one, chain 2, skip the next 2, and then a double in the last of those set of 4 single crochets. Then we're going to do 2 more double crochets in that chain 2 space. And we have come to another treble. Remember how I said we skip over those and do a chain 1. And then we're going to do 2 double crochets here. And then we've made it to our next set of single crochets. There's a double in the first, chain 2, skip 2, and then a double in the last of those single crochets. All right, now we're going to do 2 double crochets here. And we have made it to this section right here. We have worked those 2 double crochets. We got to a treble crochet, so we're going to do a chain 1 and skip the treble. Chain 1, skipping the treble. And then we're going to do 3 double crochets, chain 4, 3 double crochets, all into the tip of the shawl here. So 1, 2, 3, chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 3 more double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to work our way back across. So we skip the treble and we'll do 2 double crochets. And then the third of the double crochets goes into that first single crochet. We chain 2, skip 2. This is a little bit of review here. Double crochet in the last of the single crochet. And then we're going to do 2 double crochets into that chain space, chain 1, 2 double crochets in the next chain space, and a double crochet into that first of the 4 single crochets, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the 4th of the single crochets, and then we're going to do 2 double crochets here in that chain 2 space. We're going to skip that treble, do a chain on top of it, and then we're going to work 2 double crochets in there in that chain 2 space. And here's another section of 4 single crochets. So double crochet, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet. And now we've made it to this last loop here. Well, let's see, where are we now? We're doing this section. We've made it to that last loop, so we're going to do 2 double crochets, chain 1, another double crochet into that space. So 2 double crochets, 1, 2, chain 1, another double crochet, and then we're going to end with this treble in the top of that 3 chains turning chain. Okay, so remember there were 5 there, but we're just going to count up from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, and put our treble into the 3rd. So 1, 2, 3. There it is. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we've just completed this row right here. And then we're going to be working on row 8. So that's going to begin by making all those loops across like we did before. I'll start that out and then we'll skip ahead a little bit with my next sample. So we're going to do the first chain 10. So it's 3 chains plus 7 chains for the loop. So 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll turn our work. And we're going to do those 3 double crochets into this double crochet right here. So there's the double crochet. So that was their treble. There's their first double crochet on this to work into. So we're going to do 3 double crochets in that same spot. 1, 2, 3, chain 1. And then we're going to do 2 double crochets in the chain space, one double crochet into the first of those. Oops, we're up here. I'm on the wrong row here. Okay, so we did our 3 double crochets, chain 1 over that chain space. So we'll do that. Then we're going to do 3 double crochets, chain 7. Okay. There was that chain space. It's kind of hard to see right there, so we're skipping that. And then we're going to do 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we're going to do 3 double crochets into these 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you can see the theory here is that every time you get to one of these chain 2 spaces, see they're a little longer. That double crochet needs to move over a little bit. These chain 2 spaces are a little bit bigger than the chain 1 spaces. When you get to those chain 2 spaces, you're making a chain 7 above it. And then every time you get to those sets of 3 double crochets, you're working your 3 double crochets into those stitches, okay? And then when you get to, move on to our next sample here, let's see. Okay, so I've moved a little further along that row. We're still on the same row. We've done 3 double crochets, chain 1, 3 double crochets. So this is, let me find it on the chart here, working in the blue row. There's those 3 double crochets and then this chain 7 space. So the 3 double crochets, chain 7 space. Then we have 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. That's what's right here. 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. And then we're going to continue working across, making those chain 7 spaces above the chain 2s and working 3 double crochets into the 3 double crochets. And you can see there's a chain 1 space right here, right above that chain 1 space from right there. So you end up with this kind of funky looking thing with the 2 loops up here at the top. So we'll be able to work the archway into that section there. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the very end of row number 8. So we're right here. We've worked this section here, then we're going to chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we'll do, there's 3 double crochets there, so we do 3 double crochets into those. 1, whoops, try that again. 1, ooh, this is a stubborn one. All right. There we go. Okay. Here's a double crochet, another double crochet, 3rd double crochet, then we have a chain 1, and you can see this is going to be easy to miss. There's only 1 double crochet and then that turning chain left. So we're going to work 3 double crochets into that last double crochet. 1, 2, all in the same stitch. 1, 2, 3. And then don't forget we have to do 1 more chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we're going to finish with a treble into the top of that 3 chain turning chain, which is right here. 1, 2, 3. I feel like that little section at the very end where you're doing those 3 double crochets, chain 7, and then the treble, that might end up getting missed on sometimes. It's easy to forget because it looks like you're at the end of your triangle and you've made it to the edge, but really you have to remember to put those 3 double crochets and another chain 7 and the treble, just like it is on the chart. So then you're going to continue making your archways just like we did before on row 9. That's exactly the same as row 5. And when you come across, just to show you on this chart, these little red sections that says denotes repeat, this section, you repeat it over and over and over until what you have is left before you get to the center point looks just like this. So however many times, because as you work back and forth, you're adding more archways and more archways. So it's going to get longer and longer. So you're going to end up repeating the section more and more with each time you repeat rows 6 through 9. So you just do that as many times as you need to until what's left to get to the center point looks just like this. But the instructions will help you, the written instructions, if that doesn't make sense with the whole repeat thing. But I think as you are working on it and you can see how your shawl is taking shape and how the stitches relate to each other, that it'll be a little bit more clear. I do want to point out that this little section here, this is not a complete chart. This is just like the tip of your shawl. It changes for the last 3 rows. You repeat these, 6 through 9 over and over and over and over until you have only 3 rows left to work. Then I just want to point out the difference between this and this. They're worked almost the same, except if you look in row number 39, that would be very similar to row 7 here. We have 3 double crochets, chain 4, 3 double crochets. Well, we're missing the 4 chains here. That is because I wanted the tip of the shawl to only have 1 archway and not to have 2, because I felt like that looked weird. This is what it would look like if you didn't do this. I just didn't really like having those 2 there. I wanted it to look, to have a central point that came down. So I changed the bottom just a little bit. So that one is missing the chain 4, and then when you do the next, you'll see this was 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, and all this stuff is different. So we only have double crochets in the double crochets, and then your chain 7 here. And then when you work that last row number 41, you're just repeating the single crochets in your chain 1 spaces and your archways of 12. That's all the same all the way across. You just end up having 1 fewer of these chain 7 loops to work into. So not that you even need to pay attention to that when you're working row number 41. You just do 12 double crochets in all the archways to make the archways, and then a single crochet in those chain 1 spaces in between. So that's pretty simple. I just wanted to show you what the difference was, what this little chart was all about. It's just to help you visualize what's happening at the tip. But that's all in the written instructions as well. So once you do that, you're gonna finish off and block your shawl and weave in your ends. And please don't skip the blocking of the shawl part. I know, a lot of people don't think that blocking is super important, and for some projects it really isn't, but this is one of those projects that it actually really is. You can kind of see here, this has not been blocked. It's a little bit wobbly. It's not, it doesn't have the kind of drape that it will end up having once you block it. Wet blocking, this is an acrylic yarn that I used here. And if you're using the same yarn that I used or another acrylic yarn, I would highly recommend blocking with steam instead of with water, because just getting it wet and letting it dry doesn't really help it block very much. It just, it does help it a little bit, but when you steam it, it's like you are making all those fibers relax into the shape that you want them to be in. So here's the blocked shawl. And you can tell the difference, like compared with this, it doesn't have as crisp of a look to it. It's kind of bumpy and wobbly, and it just doesn't hang quite as nicely. And this, it's just, once you block it, steam it into place. And by steaming it, I just mean like you'll use a regular iron, putting on a high steam setting, and you'll put your iron just above your fabric. Start out with maybe 1 inch or 2 above, and if that's not making it relax, then you can go a little closer, but don't touch your iron to your fabric, because I don't want you to melt it. That would be super sad. So you just want to make sure it gets a lot of steam, and then you can move the iron away and you can pat it into the shape that you want. Don't do that with your iron there, because you'll burn your hand, but give it a little steam, pat it into the shape that you want it to be in. So we're going to talk about the tassels just a little bit before we finish up. If you guys have any more questions, please get them in, because this will be the last thing that I show you in this session. The tassels are optional, of course. You don't have to do the tassels, but I really was pleasantly surprised. This is the first shawl that I ever made with tassels, and I liked how they looked, but I didn't realize until I actually put it on that it helps keep your shawl in place. It adds a little bit of extra weight to the tips of your, the ends that hang down, and so it kind of just holds it there a little bit better, which I loved, because that's one thing. I love making shawls, but I don't wear shawls that often because I feel like I have to keep readjusting things, and I don't have the patience for that. But maybe this will inspire me to make some more shawls. I don't know, because now that I know this secret about the tassels, that's a game changer. All right, so you're gonna use your piece of cardboard. The dimensions are in your pattern, and you're just gonna wind your yarn around it 60 times. So I don't know if I'm really gonna wind it 60 times, but I'll and it doesn't have to be exact. You know, you can just kind of eyeball it or guess. But I gave you the number that I used. I think it was between 60 and 70 for my tassels, just so that you would know if you want them to look like mine. If you want them to be a little bit less poofy, you just wind it less. Or if you're running out of yarn, you can wind it less. But you should have, if your gauge matches mine, you know, for this shawl, the gauge does not need to be perfect. You can just stop working the repeats of rows 6 through 9 wherever you need to alter the size of your shawl if you want, and then you continue with the next row to get the point. So you don't have to make it the same size as mine, but it is kind of important to at least see if you're in the ballpark with the size, because you might run out of yarn. It's possible that you might run out of yarn. There is a little bit of a buffer. Usually in my patterns, I like to add about 5% and say you need 5% more than what I actually used, because people's gauges differ just a little bit, and especially if you're substituting with a different yarn, I just would really hate to know that somebody ran out of yarn in their project. That would be very frustrating. All right, so let's just pretend I wrapped it 60 times. I probably didn't quite wrap it that many, but we'll say it's 60. Cut it off. And then you should have, this is per tassel, you're gonna need 2 lengths of about 30 inches long. You can just eyeball that. Doesn't need to be perfect. Per tassel of a matching color to your tassel. Or you can do this however you like. It can be, if you want it to look like mine, this part is the matching part. So I just left it one piece folded in half, and you can definitely do that. Or you can cut this end too. But basically we need 30 inches doubled. Okay, that's what I'm running through here. So I just pulled it underneath all my strands, and I'm pulling it up to the top edge of the cardboard. And I'm gonna tie it into a tight knot. Here, whoops, my scissors wanted to get in on the action there. All right, so we're tying this in a tight knot here. Oops, got a little tangle. All right, when I'm tying tight knots, I like to yank on it, but I also do this thing where I twist it upside down. That seems to help it not come loose as I'm tying the second half of it. I mean, if you have a buddy who can put their finger there, even better, but that seems to work pretty well. So this needs to be on the top edge of your cardboard. And then you can release it here by cutting along that bottom. Like that. And then we're going to take our yarn needle, thread 2 of the strands held together through the yarn needle, and then let's see, we'll use this for pretend this is my shawl. This is what the bottom row will look like, and you are going to put your needle, oops, we got to get our beads here. If you're using beads, which you don't have to, but I liked that they gave it a little extra weight and just a little extra, little extra pizzazz. But you are going to have to find beads that have a fairly large hole. This is about 1/4 of an inch, this hole in here. And also another thing to think about with the tassels and the beads. If you are planning to wash this in the washing machine, because this is an acrylic yarn, you could wash it in the washing machine if you wanted to. The tassels might not hold up very well. They might get kind of frayed or a little bit tangled, and I'm not sure how the beads would do. I mean, you could definitely hand wash this, but I don't know that's just something to think about. If if hand washing is not your thing, I totally get it, but just think about just think about whether you want to do that before you add the tassels. All right, so I chose 3 beads in 2 different colors. And what you'll do is you'll thread, let's see. Oh, actually, we need to have all 4 of these go through our bead all at once. All right, I'm gonna trim these ends to make it a little easier for me to get them through my needle. So we're gonna put, we're gonna go dark bead, light bead, dark bead, up through there. And then we're gonna send all of your yarn tails through that space between your double crochets and your treble crochet, or that chain that counts as a treble crochet. That's where I put mine. You can kind of see it right here where that little gap is. And then you are going to use your yarn needle to send them back through all the beads, like this, all of the strands, like that. And then divide those in half, and we're gonna open up our tassel, like that, so you can see where we had tied before. That's where you open it up to, and then you're just going to tie your 2 ends together underneath there. And when you do this, don't tie it super tight, because, I mean, the knot should be tight, but if you really pull on that, it's going to start pulling this fabric down into your beads. It's going to start pulling the tip of your shawl down into your beads. So just watch for that. I had that problem the first time because I was kind of cranking on it a little bit too enthusiastically there. Okay, so once you get the first knot, then you can tie the second knot really tight, like that. Make it really tight so it can't come undone. Then you can fold that all back down. See how you have beads and your tassel. And then I used contrasting yarn, 2 pieces of contrasting yarn to hold together. The reason I'm using yarn doubled is just to make it stronger and make it look a little nicer. Then you will, but you don't have to do this with a contrasting yarn if you don't like how that looks. So you're just going to tie a knot around your tassel. Just decide on how much of the little bump at the top of the tassel you want. I think I say maybe like 1 inch below, something like that, but you know, just have to kind of eyeball it, make it nice and tight. I'm gonna twist this to make it hold a little bit better. Okay, and tie it really tight. And then I wrapped my contrasting yarn around a couple of times, just for fun, to make it look nice. You don't have to do that. It should be plenty stable without wrapping it a bunch of times, but I just liked how it looked. So wrap it around a couple of times, and then you're gonna tie a knot again. There. Like this. Nice and tight. And then to hide this, you know, if you do this in the same color, you can just trim it off down here, and that's no big deal. But I did not. I did it in a contrasting color, and so I want to hide these inside this part of the tassel. So I will just thread all of these through my needle at once. You could do this separately if you're having trouble getting them all through there at the same time. And then I'm going to go in from underneath where I tied all that stuff together, and I'm going to push my needle up next to where those threads go through, like the yarn that goes all the way up through here. So it doesn't really have to be in this specific spot. I just find it easier than, instead if you came through here and then you tried to get back your needle back in the same spot, it would be hard to see. So I kind of just go back and forth inside this blob of yarn a couple times until it feels like it's pretty secure, and then I send it back down into the middle here. There it comes. Okay, make sure that we pull that in enough that we don't see it. And then you can just trim this off. And it'll be hidden inside there, underneath all the tassel-y bits. And then the last thing that you would want to do is you just want to trim the bottom so that it looks, you know, give it a little bit of a haircut. We've got some random wispy bits sticking out. You know, even if you're really careful, it's still hard to make it perfect the first time, right? So you just trim off the bottom so that it's even. And that's what the bottom of your tassel will look like, just like that. Cute. All right, let me just check in here. Looks like we don't have any more questions. And Dawn commented on the big difference in after the blocking. Yes, there is a very big difference. And just take it from me, somebody who doesn't always block their stuff, like this is an actually important step of this particular project. It just will make a really big difference. It makes it look so much more tidy and professional, and just gives it a lot more fluid look to it. It's just a lot prettier. So yeah, I really enjoy teaching you guys how to work on the shawl, and I hope that you make your own shawls. And I will be back next week for another tutorial. So please look for that coming up at the Creative Crochet Corner. Thank you. Bye.